The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I am so delighted to introduce my guest today, Dr. Amy Alzina, Superintendent and Principal of Cold Spring Elementary School and District. Amy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to have you share about your story and successes as a superintendent and principal, your impact on the community for sure, which is very widespread and known. But one of the goals of the show also is to talk about the career pathway, the steps you took as an individual to get to where you are today. So with that in mind, I want to roll back to the very beginning and talk about your childhood, where you were born and brought up. Will you share that with us?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Northern California. I was born in Eureka, California, way north. And I grew up in a little small mill town called Scotia, California. There's 1,000 people in the town. In order to live in the town, somebody in your family had to work for the Pacific Lumber Company. So I was a small town girl, and I went to a private school, and I just most recently asked my father what landed me at Christian Life School, because I went there kindergarten through 8th grade, and he said, no, we went to the local school and we looked at it, and the school board was arguing and we didn't want to send our child there. I thought, wow, that is good for me to know as a superintendent, and making sure that our behaviors are what we want are for our children. And so from there, I went Christian Life School, kindergarten through 8th grade, and then went to the public high school, Fortuna High. And my parents were 18 when they had me, so they were very young, but education was very important to them, and ensuring that my sister and I went to college. And so we would vacation sometimes in Santa Barbara, and I found out that there was a small liberal arts college in Montecito called Westmont College. And when I was in 8th grade, we visited Westmont, and I said, that's where I'm going to go to school. And so sure enough, when I graduated, I went to Westmont College, and I didn't really know what I was going to really major in. I started as political science. My dad was involved with politics. I thought, oh, that kind of sounds exciting. But my mom was a teacher's aide, so maybe I want to be a teacher. And then I shifted over to liberal studies and minored in kinesiology, and just spent some time at the schools. I remember I did some of my practicum work at Franklin Elementary School and fell in love with the kids there. And that led me to my position first in Santa Barbara Unified as a PE teacher. The principal at the time called looking for a PE teacher, and because I was a kines minor, recommended me. And it was a brand new school, the Santa Barbara Community Academy was, and I showed up in my little sundress, not realizing I was even interviewing, and was fortunate to get that position. And it was great to be at a school that started from the ground up.
Right.
And I learned so much because it started K3 and then went K4, K5, K6.
So truly from the ground up.
Yeah.
Well, let's pause for a moment there. Let me go back a little bit, rewind, and then come forward, because we want to talk about, again, your trajectory to that experience to where you are right now. But you mentioned Fortuna High School. Fortuna, is that right?
Fortuna High.
Do you remember how large the school was?
800 students.
So pretty small.
So it was, although it was much bigger, because my elementary school had 65.
Oh, wow.
Well, K8.
Right.
So people think, oh, Cold Spring is really small. I said, oh no, that's really big compared to what I grew up
with.
Yeah.
Yes. And how big is Cold Spring now?
Cold Spring, we have 172 students, but I was the only girl in my class until about 4th grade.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What an experience. I love that. And so you mentioned visiting Santa Barbara as a child and vacationing with your sister and your family, and then being here now then at Westmont at college. What was that? Was it a culture shock for you in terms of Westmont, or was it exactly what you thought it was going to be?
You know, being a small town girl, Westmont seemed huge, and Santa Barbara just felt like LA, right?
Right.
And I remember being scared, but knowing that this is how I'm going to grow, and being homesick at times, but knowing that again, this is the path that I should be on,
And I understand that you received a scholarship to attend Westmont. Was that academic or athletic or both?
That was athletic.
Okay,
so,
let's talk about that,
yes.
because you're an incredible athlete. People do know, who know you're a runner.
Yes.
They may not know all of the accolades that came with that. So can you share a little bit about it? It's so impressive.
Thanks. So I ran for Russell Smelly, the track coach there, and cross country and track. And that was such a great experience for me. And Russell really served as that dad away from home for me, and really helped shape. And actually, the reason why I'm actually in Santa Barbara is because of him, because I did graduate early from Westmont in 3.5 years. And I was going to get my master's at Humboldt State in kinesiology. And I was there for about 9 days during the winter time, and Russell called me to see how I was doing. And I actually got on the phone and started crying. I said, I'm miserable here.
Oh.
And he said, well, you still have eligibility to run. So you can come back and you can minor in kinesiology. And I said, well, my parents don't have the money to pay for it. And he said, let's see what we can do. And he made it possible for me to get a full ride. And
wow.
That was the year I was an All-American. I just ran my heart out. I remember for myself, but for him, I was like, I don't want to let him down.
Literally running your heart out. I love it. And that I'm so glad you shared that, because I think that's so much of who you are. Disciplined, focused, I'm sure, in terms of all that you've practiced, and really the long haul, the short and the long of it, in terms of both academics, athletics, and your career too. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk again then about from Santa Barbara Community Academy to where you are today. So trace for us your career path.
Yeah. So I started there teaching PE on emergency credential at the time, and doing their after school program. And that's when I fell in love with the kids. And the after school program was really a way for me to be creative and innovative and create my own classroom, because there were really no rules, right? You had 40 kids after school and just make this program great. And I enjoyed that. And then I remember Jolene Reed at Santa Barbara Unified, she said, Amy, you're great, but we need you to get your credential. So I enrolled in the credential program at Azusa Pacific in the master's program. And then I taught 5th grade while that was happening, and fell in love with the upper grade, and then kindergarten. And while I was there, the teacher said, you would make a really great principal. Well, I was young. I was in my 20s. I said, you think so? And so I finished my credential and my master's in education teaching, and then I worked toward my administrative credential and my master's in administration, so a second master's degree. Thinking, I don't want to get my doctorate, I'll just get another master's. And then taught again kindergarten and 1st grade, and then positioned for a principal position came available. And again, I think I was 29, and Brian Sarvis was the superintendent.
Yes.
And
names of which were both so familiar.
Right?
Yes, and I think I met you for the first time when you were teaching kindergarten at the Community Academy. So this is taking me back, Amy.
Right?
Yes.
So much fun. And you were the principal at Santa Barbara Junior
That's right.
High.
That's right.
I was pregnant, I think, with Malia.
You were.
Yeah, I just had Malia. She was 8 months old, and Brian hired me to be the interim principal. I think that was his safe way of saying, let's see how she can do. And then the next year he offered me the full principal position, and I was there for 3 years as their principal, so a total of 10 years. And then the position at Adams came available, and I just saw Adams as this great opportunity. It was a school that I saw parents wanted to make it great, teachers wanted to make it great, and I thought, gosh, what an amazing opportunity. And so I asked Brian to move me over there, and I was over there, and I was their principal for 8 years.
Wow.
8 years.
Wow.
And really worked with an amazing team, an amazing group of parents, just to create that school what it is today. And I'm just so extremely proud. And knowing that it was in a great spot, I thought, this is a good time for me to transition.
Yes.
And the position at Cold Spring came available as a superintendent principal. And I said, I'm ready to be a superintendent. I want to learn that role. I want to make a larger impact on our kids.
Every position you've had such an impact on the community, truly. The Santa Barbara Community Academy, I know that your friends and former colleagues at Adams definitely miss you, but know the impact that you made there, and of course the impact you are making at Cold Spring. Quickly before we leave that and going into other parts of your leadership, but those 3 schools in the 2 different districts have some similarities, they have some differences too, and yet your leadership stays, it evolves, but also stays such a major impact. What would you say are some of the biggest differences, similarities, and some of the things that you've taken away from all 3?
I think all 3 schools have just amazing school culture and climate, and that starts really with the inner core. Yeah. What I mean by the inner core is your team of teachers and support staff. And if your support staff and your teachers are strong, then your parents will be strong around that, right? And all 3 schools have that, which is a great community and a desire to learn and grow and become just only the best for their kids. It's really student-centered, and knowing that every decision we make is about our kids. And that's exciting, and that's why I've enjoyed being at all 3 schools. What's different, I think, is the unique programs. The Community Academy is a core knowledge school, and it's a school of choice, and the kids wore uniforms, and it was really created as an opportunity if your neighborhood school wasn't a good fit for you, well, there's another public school opportunity for you. Adams is a neighborhood school, and Adams was a school at the time when I came where the neighborhood wasn't going to the school, and we said, hey, that's a problem. And so how do we bring the neighborhood back? And so we looked at, what is it that, parents are wanting? And we created the Montessori program, a school within a school, and knowing that Montessori is not a fit for every child, but knowing that those that it is a fit for, it's a great fit. And there wasn't a public offering of Montessori, so to be able to offer a public Montessori strand was really desiring, and to also at Adams to have the opportunity to create a project-based learning, a STEAM program. And we sent a teacher out to Dos Pueblos Engineering Academy to work with Amir for a year, and to have the opportunity to learn and grow and to create an elementary curriculum that is integrated with science and technology, art and math, and really take those standards and bring them to the next level. I firmly believe that we could bring up student achievement. And so I was able to leave both of those schools as California Distinguished Schools, Title I achievement schools, and then going over to Cold Spring and just seeing that same philosophy of whole child approach, that it's not just about English language arts and math, it's really about art and technology and science, and about finding what is it that makes every child come alive and tapping into that spark and really fostering that spark and love and encouragement for learning.
It's wonderful. For the viewers who are watching, if they just heard you talk about distinguished school, Title I achieving school, and that's huge accomplishments. Talk about an evolution, the importance of leadership, but of course that inner core that you talked about. It couldn't have happened without the team, the parents, of course everyone focusing on student achievement and success. It's really just major congratulations, Amy, for that success truly so far. I know there's much to have ahead, and one of the things I would say too as a hallmark of your leadership, as I've reflected back, is around how you pull in partnerships. You really bring the partners in and you send your team out, just as you said with UCSB, you said Dos Pueblos with Amir, and at at Cold Spring right now. Let's talk about looping back a little bit to your experience at Westmont. Of course, you graduated from Westmont, and I'm sure you partner with Westmont now and bring them into school. Does that happen regularly?
Definitely. You know, I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, right? And I think he says one of the qualities of leadership is not being afraid to ask for help. And so when there's something that I don't know or we need help in, you know, what are some of our community partners that we can tap into, say, you know, this is an area, you know, of growth for us, but can you help us make this an area of strength for us? And Westmont's been really great in that we have close to 30 Westmont students that help out either in our after-school program and in so many ways. And most recently, we've tapped into a partnership with Cleveland School. And so on Fridays after school, we've invited some Cleveland students to join us in our STEAM program and to work with our 5th and 6th grade students and Westmont students. And they're working together on the same projects. And knowing that both schools have so much to offer each other. And so what can we do that we can both benefit and for our kids, because they're all of our kids. And it's not just the kids that we serve at our school site, but it's the kids all over. I love that. I definitely think it's a true hallmark of your legacy so far in terms of reaching out in those partnerships for sure. And something you just talked about was reaching out when you don't know how to do something or you really haven't entered into a zone before. And I want to talk about that next, which has to do with the Thomas Fire and the mud flows, which is something none of us had experience in before. Before going right into that, I want to go back again one more time. We were joking about 2 master's degrees, so you wouldn't have to get a doctorate. And guess what you did is completed your doctorate while you were principal of Adams Elementary. So congratulations on that too. And as part of a goal of wanting to talk about the career pathway, I didn't want to let that go before going to the next piece. So let's talk about the Thomas Fire and the mud flows, your leadership in that. And for context for the viewers, Amy, you were new to Cold Spring, new to your role, and so were so many other superintendents around you, and me included, in terms of our roles. And so in South Santa Barbara County, Montecito, Union, Cold Spring, Carpinteria, Santa Barbara, then Hope, Goleta, many of the private schools, there were new leaders in those positions. So when you said a moment ago, wow, needing help in areas that we just hadn't experienced before, I would like to give you the floor, Amy, in terms of, it's been a while now, but it's still ongoing healing. What are some of the lessons learned, some of the takeaways, some of the experiences that you wouldn't mind sharing with the viewers today? Well, I'll start by highlighting you and Ellen because, as your leadership and bringing all of us superintendents together was so powerful, and that you brought us along the way in ensuring that we were in constant communication right away with the Office of Emergency Management. And so I know I don't take that for granted, and that was really unique. What I learned throughout the county and throughout the state is that you really did an excellent job bringing us along.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I remember getting the phone call after the debris flow and coming in to the Office of Emergency Management right after I heard that one of my students was killed, and thinking that this is a whole new space, and there were so many other variables out there and yet unknowns that we did not know. And how do I make sure that I communicate clearly and appropriately, because communication can kill, I know, a superintendent, right? Yes. And so I really wanted to make sure that my communication was 1,000% accurate.
Right. And it was exemplary for sure.
Thank you. And so so in that piece of it, I just wanted to know, I was in this new charted territory, and Suzanne Grimsey was sitting next to me, and I needed to make a really important phone call. And I just remember saying out loud, my thought bubble was, gosh, I feel a little bit alone right now. And she goes, you're not alone, and I'm here with you. And I was glad I shared that because she stayed next to me, and I just had her to be able to bounce things off of. And I was just so grateful for her throughout that process. And she's just a gift to our community. And then also, Anthony Renai, the superintendent of Montecito Union, I feel like throughout it all, I gained really a brother in him, and I hope he feels like he gained a sister. We were both new. But when we were making decisions, I also said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Just want to give you a heads up. He would say the same thing, or we would bounce ideas off of. We would time our communications so our communications went out at the same time, because we didn't want our community to feel like, well, MUS said this and Cold Springs said this first. So we made sure that our communication was also in sync. So looking back at it, I'm really thankful just for also, the superintendent of Goleta, Donna. When we had to evacuate our campus and move over to the El Rancho campus, she said, let's do this now, And so talk about asking for help, but also having colleagues on the other end that were just willing to help and do whatever we could for our kids, because they truly felt like they were their kids too, was the biggest comfort in it all. And so now it's like, what can we do to give back? Because it does feel awkward to be the one to ask all the time, and so that's not our nature, because we're servants.
Right.
We're here to serve.
Yeah.
And so now it's really about what can we give back to the community.
Well, thank you for articulating that so gracefully and succinctly. I know there's so many more. You could write a book on it for sure. We could do a whole show on that. But, some of the things that I take away from what you said has to do with that clarity of communication, the instantaneous leadership and confidence that you need to exude, at the same time having vulnerability too, because you're human, you haven't done this before, and you reached out for help. At the same time, you provided such leadership strength and help to the community. You were a true anchor to the Cold Spring and Montecito community, Amy, for sure. And one way that you're giving back is by expressing your story, sharing with others, but also asking for help on behalf of other Californians and those who have suffered through these tragedies. So recently you went up to Sacramento. You were invited by the State Assembly to talk about what are ways in which we can help you and others can help, or they can help as legislators, others who experience this kind of tragedy. So can you share a little bit about that experience?
Right.
And thank you for doing that.
Yes, I was so grateful for the opportunity, and so many lessons learned. And I think mental health is a hot topic right now. And what I'm hearing from our legislators is that what models work. They're wanting to know what models work. And I will say, coming from Adams and having a robust counseling system there with FSA and CADA, we're really thankful for that. But when I came to Cold Spring, we had a school psychologist one day a week, and we didn't have counselors, and so really relied upon our county to come in and support us, and they were amazing, and hospice came in as well. But a model that I know that is effective and that works, and this is what I keep advocating for, is ensuring that the support services are at the school site. And what I've learned is when families are in trauma, whether it's a fire, a disaster, or sexual abuse, whatever it may be, the last place that they feel that they can go to is someone outside, another outside agency. And they're great agents, not to say they're not bad, they're great, but they just feel most comfortable at the school site. And so we set up a compassion center at our school site that was available not just only for our students and our faculty, but for parents to come and receive counseling support as well. And so just advocating for funding for that. And another piece that I am just advocating for is there's all these grants that are available, but when you're a single school district and you're, party of one, I remember we're putting a lot of hours in that Restart grant, and that there needs to be a simpler way to apply for these grants and a liaison to help districts that are in trauma to get that support and to serve as a liaison. So recognizing that districts aren't just a number, That's always never felt good with me as a principal, that they are seen as people.
Amy, it is so evident in terms of your leadership, your advocacy, as to why you were named Congressman Salud Carvajal's Woman of the Year and nominated by your fellow administrators in the South Santa Barbara Charter of AXA, which is an administrator group cohort, as Superintendent Principal of the Year this year. Congratulations for that. How did that feel?
I felt so grateful to my colleagues, including you, for nominating me. I just thank you. Just so grateful and so humbled, and just again super humbled, because I feel like it's a team effort. I would not be here today without your support and my colleagues' support, and so grateful for them. So we all share in it.
We definitely are a team, but you really are a shining star for sure. And your leadership so matters in the community, as you can tell, in terms of, and in the state as well. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. We've talked about leadership, but let's focus on leadership for a moment. And you've talked and articulated about some of your principles and some of the lessons learned, but how do you continue to hone your leadership skills? How do you perform that discipline that's required?
I think leadership is something that we're constantly learning and constantly growing, and it takes work, right? It's the little things that matter. It's in the morning, it's saying, how are you today?
Right.
It's putting your cell phone away and really making the people in your organization feel that they matter. How are your kids today? What did you do over the weekend? And it's those little deposits that really make a difference. And realizing that when I get in that busy mode that we all get in, to remind myself to slow down and to take care of your people. Because if you don't take care of your people, then they can't take care of our kids.
Right. Thank you for that. And let's talk about your kids for just a moment. Those who are viewing will say, wow, Amy Alzina, boy, she's incredible. What an incredible leader. And you're a wife and a mother of two. So for the viewers out there who say, how does she do it? What words of wisdom or advice might you be able to share?
It's a juggling act, as you know, right? And for better or worse, my kids have been with me all along the way, right?
That's great.
Like Malia was just 9 months old, and now she's going into high school. She's going to Santa Barbara High next year. I can't believe it. And Jack is now, he's at Cold Spring in 5th grade. And I feel fortunate to have Jack with me. And yes. I know that won't be forever. And to be able to have that opportunity, like we did the other day, dressed as your favorite character, and he was Jack, and I was Elastigirl, right? Like, to take the fact that he still wants to do that, I treasure those moments. But and just knowing that, when I can't be there for the kids, making them feel that they are special too, and taking those times at night, when you come from a long board meeting, as you know, and just saying, how was your day today? Just having them an opportunity to connect as well. And that, I am far from a perfect mom, as they will tell you.
Well, we all do our very best. And Amy, you show your best so well to the community and to your family and to your peers and colleagues. As we wind down the show, I want to truly thank you for the impact that you make as a leader in the community. And in every position you've had, Amy, you've really made a difference for our students and their families. And I know that this career we'll do an interview in 20 years and go back again and talk about that trajectory. But truly, from all of us, want to say thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's just been so much fun working with you and just having our superintendent's meetings with you and your leadership. And you're just an amazing leader. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Amy. I'm Susan Salcido, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you so much for joining us today for this edition of Talking with Teachers.